This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.
The Senate has passed an amendment of the 2023 Finance Act. This amendment will seize the increase of the windfall levy on banks' foreign exchange revaluation gains from 50% to 70%. The initial 50% had been proposed by President Bola Tinubu as a one-time tax on banks. The amendment also states that any bank that fails to pay the windfall profit levy and has not executed the deferred payment agreed by the 31st of December this year will be liable to pay a windfall levy that was withheld, in addition to a 10% fine of that levy and an interest. The move has been criticized by some in the finance sector who believe that it is a bad signal to tax already reported profit. For more on this, I'm joined by Marcel Okeke, former chief economist at Zenith Bank. Good morning and welcome to the conversation, Mr. Okeke.
Thank you for me this morning.
It's a pleasure to have you on, sir. To start off, for those of us who are not conversant with the finance and the banking sector, can you explain to us what this the foreign exchange revaluation gains happen to be?
Sometime last year, specifically by the middle of June last year, the Central Bank of Nigeria did what is called floating of the naira. It was interpreted to be merger of various exchange rates that were in existence at that time. So they floated the naira, meaning that they wanted the exchange rate at that time would be a willing buyer and willing seller. Okay, meaning the forces of demand and supply. So that saw the crashing of the naira value against the dollar. And so the banks that had, positive dollar assets, wherever, made a lot of gains, meaning that any dollar that anybody had, the value went up. So the bank that had such huge dollar assets gained a lot, and that is why if they had $1, the value went up to around 2,000 naira at a point. So that gave them the windfall gain that we're talking about, or profit that we're talking about today.
So let's come to the government's plan to tax this, right? What are your initial thoughts?
My initial thought is that it's not the right thing to do. It's not the right thing to do because it's going to be retroactive. All the banks have completed everything about 2023 and paid the relevant taxes, at that time. So to talk about windfall tax at this point in time, sounds so strange to this environment.
And yes. How would you say this seems like it will go through either way, because it was a suggestion that came from the president, and then you have the Senate even agreeing with it now. If we see the banks having to pay this tax, the tax and the levy for those who default, how would it impact their operations?
Well, it's not just impacting the operation, but the message that is being sent to the whole world. You understand? Because it is a kind of policy somersault. Here we are in an environment where you have all the laws as to how every company, because banks are companies, how they're going to operate, and they pay the relevant company income tax, CIT. You understand? And all that has gone. So are you asking for foreign and local investors to invest here? Any foreign investor coming means they are not sure of what is going to happen in terms of shift in policies and all that. And at the end of the day, banks deal with money. It is likely they're also going to find ways of getting much of what is now taken away from them, from their customers. We're already worried about the various charges, that banks levy their customers in terms of transactions. So various types are likely to come up for the banks to recoup those transactions. Those costs. And also, this levy coming up now, when almost all the banks are in the market looking for funds, that is costing them so much to get. And now you are hearing about this one that nobody ever thought of or expected. So we just see how it's unfolding. It's not going to be in their favor in any way. It will not favor the banking sector. It will not favor the economy either.
Is it enough to describe it as a risk, especially in light of what you've just touched on, the recapitalization and the efforts that the banks are making to try to make up those, to meet with the deadline? Would you describe this as a possible threat? This is a sector that almost every year has recorded profits, regardless of the economic situation.
You know what we are talking about is money that the banks have pocketed, if you like. If you're a human being, you have done everything and you have pocketed that money. You understand? And all of a sudden, in other words, it's the money they own and they must have been planning on how to utilize it one way or the other. And all of a sudden, government wants to dip hand into their coffers, forcefully take out that money. So do you think it will create a gap in their pockets, in their coffers? You understand? In their strong groups. And so when these gaps are created, definitely it's going to affect them negatively. And that means going forward, banks will be apprehensive. You don't know what next the government is coming up with. You understand? So rather than encouraging the banking sector to be strong, and reliable the way we are talking about, the government is rather instilling fear and uncertainty into the system. You understand? So that is what we are going to see playing out.
And just finally, let's assume that this was 2023 and this is a legislation that was going through. The president proposed 50%. The lawmakers have now revised that upwards to 70%. 70% taxation seems a bit extreme. Or would you say that it is fair considering how the banks made this gain in the first place?
It is truly unfair. Just say that a bank, the so-called windfall, a bank made it to 1,000 naira. You understand? So 70% of 1,000, meaning the government is taking 700, okay, and then left with 300. You understand? That's the meaning. After the bank has planned everything based on the 100 and paid dividends to shareholders, and is left with what is considered appropriate. And now the government goes to take almost everything. It's a business, and it has also planned, based on that profit is made going forward, in terms of even expansion of their businesses, deploying what they have gotten to what they're going to be using to do in terms of the operations. And this is so suddenly, because the letter requesting for this amendment went to the Senate on the 17th. And just within a gap of less than 1 week, on the 23rd, the Senate approved it and moved the rate to 70. You understand? And the implementation is immediately. So all these sudden things, policies are not done this way, I must tell you. But that's what we are about to live with. And let's see what happens. But it really is not going to be palatable. It's not going to be good, all right, for the banking system. You understand? And the entire economy. And the signal I'm telling you to the rest of the world, investors, policies are not made overnight like that. You understand? No consultation, no whatever. And more so, windfall tax has never taken place in this economy. Nigeria, I don't know anywhere in Africa. Okay? We have had it in some other developed countries, but not in this part of the world.
Mr. Okeke, we'll certainly see what the impact will be going forward. But I do want to thank you for your thoughts and for your time this morning. I appreciate it. I appreciate you speaking to us. Mr. Marcel Okeke is former chief economist at Zenith Bank, joining me this morning to discuss the amendment to the 2023 Finance Act. The Senate has increased the proposed 50% tax on the windfall that banks made over the foreign exchange revaluation gains, or rather over the foreign exchange revaluation. They've proposed from 50% instead to tax it by 70%. We wait to see what happens and if or when the president will sign this bill.
This is Radio Now 95.3 FM. Come for the news, stay for informed conversations.